Since Vampire Coasts are officially mid-tier at best, I can start playing them now without feeling too bad about it. And I did so in Turin's single faction war yesterday. Decided to jump in and play. Sometimes I do still play in tournaments, kind of spur of the moment. Decided to jump in this one. Yeah, I do actually like certain things about Vampire Coast. I'm a fan of powder units, and today we're going to be talking about here the Carronade, the zombie cannons, 750 points for a cannon, pretty solid. They do get the extra powder, giving them a little bit of a missile damage buff while that is active. Yeah, it's a zombie cannon. What more can you say about it? Protected here by the Black Spot, Regiment of Renown zombie handguns. I actually love these guys. Don't see them too much, but kind of a personal favorite of mine, harkening back to the Empire Total War. Back in the day, they've got charge defense against large and anti-large AP, basically pro-style bayonets on their handguns, which is pretty cool. We've also got a triple gun crab triangle here, a fleet admiral with pistol, who we'll be talking about soon, gunnery white, who I've already talked about. Already talked about this guy right here as well back in the day, Necrofex Colossus, one of my other favorite units on the roster. Bunch of zombie mobs, couple handguns, couple of bombers, already doing some nice skirmishing damage with some shades up front. Got some Sisters of Slaughter here, Sorceress Lore Fire, Dread Spears, some handbow Corsairs as well. Sad Swords, Fear Spears. One unit of Dark Riders getting rushed by 3 Dire Wolves. Are going to pop a Dance Macabre on them just to immediately clear this mobility from my opponent. If I can get rid of that from a tactical perspective, I will be able to kind of control the mobility game to a degree. And the guns and Necrofex just roasting out this Dark Elf front line here. Those Corsairs don't even make contact. Just getting absolutely destroyed. The cannon is contributing right now. I've just got the cannon matched up on the shades because I don't really have any good priority targets. You can see a nice burning head ripping through the front line there as well. Yeah, just going after actually the Sorceress right now, getting a few good shots there. We're going to switch onto the Shades shortly as a targeting priority perspective. The Shades are the most threatening thing, not only to the Gallows Giant, but to my characters as well. Right now, I haven't taken too much damage on the Admiral or the Gunnery Whites, but they are all severely threatened by this Shade line here. Right now, we're just focusing on Loke here with the Gun Crabs. And the Necrofex, love its animations, just fighting in both melee and range, probably one of the most interesting and coolest units in the game. Oh man, again, I have done a video about him before. If you just Google, or YouTube search, I guess if you Google it too, probably my video would eventually show up, but YouTube search the Gallows Giant and my video should pop up. In general, I've been utilizing this guy to kind of counter the mass infantry rush, especially against Dark Elves specifically, because the crossbows won't outrange you so significantly. But anyway, cannonballs flying overhead. We're now switched onto the Shades here. We can get an opportunity for a beautiful side-shotting through the formation of multiple Shades here. That is kind of an ideal scenario for the cannon to be shooting in. Now the Burning Head, though, going to rip up what's left of these zombie bombers and the zombie mob summon there, and you can see now my Fleet Admiral did take quite a bit of damage from Loki in that melee engagement. Likewise, the Shades focusing fire quite efficiently as well, but we've got him a little bit bunched up right here. Gonna fire all hands on deck. Just everything that's left that can shoot is gonna be shooting in. We've still got a handful of pistol mobs here. I believe that's a summon. Nope, actual real pistol mobs. Carronades still firing. The Black Spot still protecting up on the high ground as well. You can see them just shooting anything that kind of comes near. I do like them as just kind of the all-around protect your artillery type unit. They can fend off large units, they can shoot, they can do a number of different things depending on the type of threat that you're facing. But yeah, the Carronades just on the high ground here applying pretty consistent pressure, and the 2 chevrons I gave them early in the battle are pretty important. Cannons in general, I mean, if they're missing shots consistently, they're really not very useful at all. So the zombie Carronades in particular, they do have a little bit of a... I need to do some testing and actually look at the numbers. I want to say they are definitely less accurate than Dwarf cannons. I believe they're also less accurate than Empire cannons. At least that's how they're meant to be. But at least with the chevrons, because they're cheaper, you can actually chevron them. Again, they had 2 to begin with. They've gotten 1 more through the course of the battle. Yeah, really, really good stuff. It definitely increases their accuracy just that little bit more, and the reload rate as well. Very beneficial. We can see some scab scrats ripping through. Haven't really highlighted them too much, but I have been using them consistently. One gunnery white does go down from the Shades. They kind of over-pursued a little bit, and now the Shades have this nice concave of fire here, threatening to finish off old Gunny. But there's just way too many threats left. The Carronade is going to get mostly shut down at this point. You can see the zombie guns managed to fend off the bleak swords there, the black spot. I mean, obviously, they still got pretty garbage stats. After all, they are just zombies. But 20 attack, 14 defense against some extremely tattered bleak swords. Sad swords, fear spears. This unit of swordsmen does get in and finish off the zombie crew, which is unfortunate, but not before they've racked up quite a bit of value here. Almost doubling their value and damage output. Which, cannons are, they say anti-large on the tooltip, but really they're great anti-infantry as well, just especially shooting in the side of a formation. Just the fact that it hits multiple models and will kill the models on contact, it is quite effective. Actually, the Carronade crew, just barely goes down there at the end, but very fun game to like and Lupin. Hopefully y'all enjoyed that. A little bit of a different build from Coast here. I guess not too different. Still has kind of the gun crab triangle, which again, I've been a proponent of this for quite some time, but it's now kind of in the meta, I feel, to a degree. For Vampire Coast, the bombers doing a reasonable job, but not like overperforming, which is nice to see. They're kind of right where they should be, in my opinion. The pistol mobs did a great job too, though, I have to say. Should definitely highlight these guys soon as kind of your basic troops. They tend to pay out a lot better in terms of damage output than the deckhands if they can, actually stand and shoot for any length of time. Just they're so cheap, and their damage output is pretty legit, all things considered. The hounds kind of got misused by me. Didn't really highlight them too much. After eating his mobility, I was just kind of, harassing the backline, getting killed by various things, probably getting killed by Shades as well. Shades, some of them got some really nice damage value on, not only the Necrofex, but gunnery whites as well. Both the gunnery whites pay out pretty decently. Necrofex, 2200 damage value for the Gallows Giant. Awesome to see. Almost 15,000 damage dealt. Yeah, the Carronade, as I mentioned, definitely pays for itself. Black Spot managed to survive. They don't really pay out, but, I mean, the cannon paid out, so they sort of did their job, right? Loke here got triple teamed pretty hard by the gun crabs. It's kind of to be expected. That's one of the reasons why you bring them. They all can support each other very well. The Sorceress, though, 203 kills, 1200 damage value, just roasting out tons of zombies with some nicely placed burning heads. Sisters of Slaughter, definitely a rough time. The Necrofex is sort of a hard counter to them, and it's sort of a hard counter to all this infantry, to be honest. But, yeah, fun stuff. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I will be bringing you some more replays from that. And some other people's replays from that, too. But let's just kind of finish up here a little bit, talk about cannons. I have had this discussion some of it before. I've talked about the Dowie cannons, which are definitely the best. You've got Empire cannons, you've got Dwarf cannons, and then you've got your Coast cannons, right? 800 for the Empire. Coast used to be, I think, 700, now 750. It is the cheapest out of these three. Accuracy on paper is supposed to be the worst, but let's have a look. Damage-wise, it's exactly the same as the other two. I think the Empire one, the damage is actually the same. Maybe it just has a slightly faster fire rate. Let's see. 88, 352. 88, 352. So yes, exact same actual damage, just a slightly faster fire rate baseline on the Empire cannon. Keep in mind, though, of course, extra powder does give the Carronade a slight damage buff over these three, or these other two, I should say, while those first few shots are going off. Of course, the Carronades also have the benefit of having Gunny there, and I didn't actually use any ammo refills, I don't think, because I didn't need to, but obviously in campaign or in an extremely long battle, you could refill the ammo on your Carronades, which is definitely an advantage it has over the other two. I mean, you've also got, this accuracy buff and reload skill buff as well, which can be useful to take somewhat. This other Deadeyes too, I mean, 10% might not seem like much, but when something does this much missile damage, that is like an extra, what is that? That 35 armor piercing damage, an extra 8 base missile damage. So, I mean, extra 40 plus damage overall is actually fairly solid. But again, is it worth actually paying for this ability when that's half the cost of an extra mob? Hard to say. But certainly you do have some good support options as well. You don't have any nets, which Empire has, which obviously gives Empire Great Cannons a pretty significant advantage there. Dwarven Cannons, they have the magic resistance, which helps them fend off Spirit Leech, and their crew is also the tankiest of all. You can see they have the best health and armor and melee stats of any of the three, which is not really super beneficial. They're still quite weak, but it's something. Yeah, in terms of support abilities, I mean, you also have the Master Engineer here to, again, give reload skill and accuracy, a little bit of extra damage as well, although this is explosive damage, which the cannons do not actually deal any explosive damage, so believe it or not, this here, extra powder, does not benefit the Dawi artillery at all, or at least the cannons. It would benefit something like Grudge Throwers have an explosion damage, right? Flame Cannons also have an explosion damage, but anyway, we're getting a little bit off track. For the zombie Carronades here, they are also unbreakable, which means, they're undead, which means they're, in a way, sort of unbreakable. They'll continue shooting while they're crumbling, but one thing, artillery crews are perhaps the only unit type in the entire game that actually don't benefit all that much, and arguably have a little bit of a downside from having crumbling. Basically, every other unit gives a huge advantage because they'll continue, holding the line, they'll continue shooting, and just take a minor amount of DPS while crumbling. Whereas, in general, artillery crews tend to have the lowest HP pools of any unit overall. You can see, just kind of highlighting through these different units here, Deck Droppers also have very low HP pool, but overall, they have the least amount of HP of any unit in the entire roster. So, because of that, crumbling kind of disproportionately affects them more than other units, and besides that, once they start losing models quickly, it can kind of spiral where they can't use their artillery pieces, they can't use maybe all three, and more than that, if they're actually holding the artillery, like if they are manning the guns, so to speak, the guns themselves will actually take crumbling damage as well, so you can have them just detonate, and then even if the crew survives, they cannot use their guns, right? So something to consider. It's literally the only time in the game where crumbling is less useful than having not crumbling, in my opinion. Queen Bess, of course, has so much HP on her crew and on the gun itself that you actually can Invocation of the Heck and kind of bail it out. It doesn't heal the gun itself, but it will heal the crew and stop them from crumbling, so there's that. But anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this one. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.